Now, I don't know if you guys saw the potentially good news for Ram owners on the Dodge side of the house. It looks like Stellantis is remapping the engines for the Durango, and we're going to discuss that here in a second. But hopefully, this could potentially mean some good news for Ram owners. Now, most of you guys know that the Hemi is returning for 2026 for the Ram 1500s. That engine carries a $1,200 upcharge over the standard output Hurricane. A few of you guys in a video I did a while back said that that wasn't true. I went online just to check, and yes, it was true. Now, if you have the Pentastar engine and you want the Hemi, it's going to cost you $2,895 over the Pentastar. And if you have the high output Hurricane, there is no charge for the Hemi. So limited and limited Longhorn trims comes in with the high output. Hemi has no extra charge. But yes, that is a lot of money over the Pentastar, $2,895. So let's read this article real quickly. As I said, this is good news for the Dodge Durango brand because they're now, well, let's just read it. This article is on caranddriver.com. It says, "Long live the V8, declares Dodge. After beginning to shift away from the tried and true Hemi V8 engine in favor of the newer Hurricane Inline 6, the Trump administration's dismantling of emissions regulations has Dodge returning to its 8-cylinder loving form. Earlier this year, Dodge announced that the Durango Hellcat and its 710 horsepower supercharged engine would last for another year. And now the American automaker has revealed that all 2026 Durango SUVs will feature a V8 muscle." Do you guys know how crazy that is? The Dodge Durango has only really had the naturally aspirated V6, known as the Pentastar. They dropped that engine in favor of just V8 options. Ram has 3 engine options that are 6-cylinder. 3. That's insane. While the base Durango GT model was previously motivated by a 295 horsepower V6 engine, its engine bay will now house the 5.7 liter Hemi V8, boosting output by 65 ponies to 360 horsepower. The V8's 390 pound-feet of torque is also 50% higher than the 260 pound-feet of torque produced by the 3.6 liter Pentastar. This cuts over a second from Dodge's claimed 0 to 60 on the GT, so from 7.4 down to 6.2. That's pretty substantial. Now, the Durango RT, which previously packed the 5.7 liter Hemi, also gets an upgrade, now carrying the 6.4 liter 392 Hemi V8 from the 2026 model year. This also results in a notable increase in muscle for the RT, with 475 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, up 115 horsepower and 80 pound-feet of torque. That is a big jump. Now, the top of the Durango range continues to be the SRT Hellcat, packing the supercharged 6.2 liter V8, bringing the Brawn with 710 horsepower and 645 pound-feet of torque. Dodge claims the Hellcat model can rip from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and quotes a 180 mile/hour top speed. The Hellcat also gains a jailbreak edition that brings more customability with a wider array of color choices. You guys have seen me complain a lot about the return of the 5.7. Nothing against the 5.7, but I truly believe that if Ram really wanted to hit it out of the park, they should have offered the 6.4 liter Hemi versus the 5.7. Now, I understand the Atlantis architecture had a lot to do with why they brought back the 5.7, but again, the 6.4 is in the HDs, and that too has the Atlantis architecture for the electronics. So I don't understand why they could not make this engine work for the 1500s. This would have been a game changer. I've done a lot of towing tests this year on the different half tons, and the 6.2 liter offered by GM is pretty much at the top of the hill over the twin turboed V6s. I just did an EcoBoost test, which you guys will see soon. It beat that engine too. And I won't bet you the Power Boost won't outdo the EcoBoost because the hybrid system runs out of juice when I'm going up a 6% grade. And because of how hot the temperatures are this year and because of the density altitude a lot of these trucks have been struggling. So I truly believe that if Ram added the 6.4 liter Hemi in the Ram 1500, it would have been truly the best option to have in the half-ton segment. Let's go ahead and talk about pricing with this Durango, because this is something else I want you guys to see. The 2026 Durango GT will start at $44,490, which is $4,000 higher than last year. The Durango RT now starts at $51,990, identical to the price from 2025, while the 2026 Durango Hellcat tops the range with an entry price of $81,990, which is actually $5,000 less than in 2025. I really do feel bad for those early adopters of the Durango Hellcat. Orders for the Durango GT and Hellcat open on August 13 before vehicles reach dealerships in the fourth quarter, with orders for the RT starting later this year. So here's a quick history lesson for you. Back in 2011, FCA almost says Stellantis. Man, so many buy sells. But yeah, back in 2011, FCA did replace the 6.1 liter Hemi with the 6.4 liter Hemi for the SRT8 models. Fast forward a few years, in 2015, FCA introduced the 6.4 for the Ram HDs. Now, when they introduced the 6.4 for the Ram HDs, they did do updates to the heads, intake manifold. They dropped compression down 10-1, and I think they did something different with the pistons too. Obviously, people buying that truck, especially like commercial businesses, don't want to run premium fuel, so that's why they changed the compression for that engine. Now, at that time, they still had the 5.7 and the 6.4 together, and at some point they dropped off the 5.7. Now, they did have the 6-speed transmission behind the 6.4, which was a brutal towing experience with that 6-speed. Now, fast forward to 2019, we got that 8-speed ZF, which was a game changer. Now, that 6.4 in the Ram made 410 horsepower, 429 pound-feet of torque in that version. Now, for 25, they dropped down the horsepower to, I think, 405, and it does now run a true 87 octane, which is why I think it dropped down a little bit for the horsepower. But what are your guys' thoughts? I truly believe the only reason why we never saw a 6.4 Hemi in the Ram 1500s is because of the push for greener engines, right? The 6 cylinders were supposed to be the greener engine option, better fuel economy, which I've proven not to be true. But on top of that, that is probably why we never saw it for the 1500, because their main thing was fuel efficiency, and the 5.7 had the mild hybrid system on it. But hopefully, with the announcement of the Ford F-150 Lobo, maybe Ram will do something to compete with that. Now, I'm hoping they don't do a sport truck only like Ford is doing, because I think that the 6.4 liter would be a good addition to like the Rebel, maybe even the RHO in the same version that's in the Durango, right? Just having the 470 horsepower, 400, yeah, whatever it is in the Durango, I can't remember now, but yeah, having those same horsepower numbers, and then with the Rebel, maybe having what the HDs have. That would be good enough for some people, because sometimes people want to tow a trailer, and the Lobo that Ford is coming out with is like a sport truck. Now, if they want to compete with the sport truck model that Ford is doing, don't just make the 6.4 available for that. That would be a huge mistake in my opinion. But let me hear from you guys. Do you really think that from this announcement with the Dodge Durango, we could potentially see the 6.4? This would be a huge success for Ram, I think, especially going into for 2027 model year. Maybe, just maybe, they could introduce this engine, or even sometime next year as an option. Or they could discontinue the 5.7 altogether, get rid of that mild hybrid system, because a lot of guys don't even like the e-torque system on the 5.7. So this could mean good news for Ram owners. With the Dodge Durango pretty much getting that 6.4 in an RT model, we could see it waterfall over to the Ram side of the house. But again, we can only hope for that. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. See you guys soon.